Well, hello, welcome to I Love Gay today. And we're in DC today, and we are here with Micah the Poet. How are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
It's a good day today. And I'm also on the East Coast, and we are very spoiled because it's after all the winter and everything. This is like one of the nicest days we've had all year.
Yeah, we're finally getting a little bit of sunshine. I appreciate that.
But you come in great company. I know you've teamed up, worked, done things with Racine in the past, and we had Racine on our show just about 2 months ago. Amazing people, amazing person, and amazing people she surrounds herself with.
Yeah, it's been like really amazing. I absolutely love doing events with the race team. The I actually got into it when I worked for DC Public Library. Started working for them probably about 6 years ago, and I was doing Pride outreaches, and I also am a spoken word artist. So I've been a spoken word artist for about 20 years, and I was doing an outreach at Racine's reading room, and they needed a poet really quick to come up and fill up some space. And I actually came up and just did a quick poem right quick to keep the show going.
Yeah.
And they ended up really enjoying it and invited me out to a lot of other events. And, it was just a beautiful story from there. So I love doing Racine's events and like being around her and her people. Like it's always just a beautiful experience every time I
Yeah.
get there.
I agree. But no, the whole world of poetry, it's interesting because especially with social media, I think a lot of us are discovering the depth of it and how many different poets and in the LGBT space, especially there are. But I think before a lot of the social media side, a lot of us didn't even know it was happening. And I think you're part of something that people would just love to learn more about.
Yeah, honestly, doing poetry for this song, I think this is the first time where, LGBTQ artists, queer artists are actually have the space to be heard and promoted and opportunities given to us to show our culture and make art around things that pertain to queer life. And I think for a lot of times when I was doing shows when I was younger and things like that, that was a taboo, right? It was a little too risque for even general crowds. And so now I think what it's so beautiful, especially being able to be in the depths of it, in the trenches with social media and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
I just think that it's beautiful that the visibility for queer people has skyrocketed probably in the last 2 or 3 years. And there's an actual um, demand for our stories and for relatable impact, the relatable impact that queer people have had on on this society. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I was thinking even prior to the shutdowns and all the stuff we've been through over the last year, though. But you used to perform and do and bring this out to the public through Pride festivals and all that good stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so before the pandemic, yeah, we used to do outreaches up and down. I mean, um, gay pride, trans pride, black pride, lesbian pride, youth pride. We were out, not only spreading educational resources for, me working with the DC Public Library, but also being able to facilitate different spoken word events, open mics, events where we have poetry series where there would probably, sometimes be cash prizes and things like that. So we're really able to not only bring a large spotlight onto our community, but also be able to give back money and charity and things like that to our community as well. So even before the pandemic, we were making very large strides in content production among the queer community.
Yeah, yeah. And but you're also a DJ as well, right?
Yes, yes. I have I do. I DJ as well. I've been DJing probably not as long, probably about 15 years. I've been doing DJing, and the gigs are not as frequent as the poetry gigs. But my dad was a DJ, so I find that I have a very strong tie to music, and I also am very intuitive with how I place it. So a lot of times You know, it's not about like what song you play, but when you play it and who you play it for. So, you know, being able to learn those ins and outs and those little nuances about, you know, not only facilitating safe spaces, but also facilitating spaces where, you know, queer people can have fun and let go and, you know, meet each other and network and facilitate spaces of community and family was pretty much my biggest goal. So so mostly, you know, my whole life I've just been using those talents to facilitate safe spaces for queer people.
Yeah, no, I know. And also I was checking out some of your work and your poetry readings and so forth. And especially lately with a lot that's going on with Black Lives Matter, you've been able to utilize your platform to really be able to kind of be out there and be an activist and try to help make change.
Yes, I don't know how the other way to put it, but I'm completely obsessed with activism. I have my entire life, whenever someone asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, I always said, like, I want to help people, you know? And so it's luckily and thankfully that I was able to fall into a job where that's exactly what I do, and to work in an art form that's exactly what I do. I'm able to give voice to marginalized people with my poetry, but I'm also able to be out on the ground every day, starting community events, community initiatives, putting together different ideas, not only for queer people, but you know, queer people or brown people, but all marginalized groups of society. Really, that's the biggest tenet behind my poetry. No matter how dark it gets, there's always another layer to it that involves some redemption or some way that we are bringing ourselves back to light. So that is something that's really, really important for me, and something that I try to make sure that that I am holding sight of whenever I'm going through my day-to-day, because I know that I wouldn't be where I am without the opportunities that I've been afforded in my life and in my career so far. So
does some of that come out in the book? You've got a book, Things No One Else Wants to Say.
Yes, I do. I have a book. It's my very first book. It's a compilation of poetry. It's split into 3 parts. One of my poetry friends says it's kind of like a 3-part act, 3-part play in 3 parts. There we go. So the 3 things that the book kind of centers around is love, life, and family. And I thought those were 3 ideals that were broad enough to where they could really be relatable for everyone, but just narrow enough for me to be able to narrow it down to what those ideals mean for me and in my life. So it's a compilation of my first 20 years of poetry. So it's more so of coming of age story, a story about maturity, a story about redemption, a story about, you know, finding yourself through the darkness, pretty much. And I named it Things No One Else Wants to Say, because I have a very candid approach to life, to speech in general, and especially my poetry. I feel as though if we are constantly telling each other the things that we need to hear and holding each other accountable with love, that we can always make sure that we're being the best human beings that we can be.
Yes, I think it sounds very relevant in today's times, especially as we have hope that things are getting better. So.
I'm gotten vaccinated, so I'm like ready to go out and, you know, into the world now.
No, I'm with you. I just got my last Saturday, and Sunday was touch and go, but I feel better about the fact that here I am today.
Right, and so you got 3 or 4 rough days, but you're ready to go after that. So so I'm now kind of trying to reach back out to those outdoor venues and those different sources and things like that. I have my first outdoor show, I think, coming up in June. So May is going to be like the month that I think all the artists around the world are going to be waited with bated breath, because needless to say, being a performer for so many years, I have a lot of friends that are musicians and actresses and poets and things like that. And so all of us have been just calling each other, trying to like make sure that we can support each other and have gigs, because I think performance-wise, there just haven't been a whole lot of opportunities for physical shows. And that's really where a lot of artists find their muse, right? And find their means to keep on going. It's kind of from that energy that they get kind of from the crowd, which has kind of been missing for this year and some change. So I'm really, really excited for my first physical show back in a year and some change. And I'm just excited to see how it's going to go and how, you know, art is going to progress from here.
Yeah, same here. And I look forward to being able to now that we are able to go back in the real world more safely and freely. And I'm only a few hours from DC. I'm looking forward to coming on down this summer and being able to connect with you all in the real world.
Right. Right, and that's always a plus. I was gonna say, like, I'm always in, but whenever I used to walk balls all the time, I grew up in a ballroom. I don't know if you know about that, or Fogan era and all that, but yeah, so I grew up in that. So I was constantly back and forth between DC and Washington and DC and New York and Virginia and New York and Florida and New York, you know, coming back to see my house family and to walk balls. And you know, New York is the place that gave me my cutting teeth as a queer person and allowed me to really stand on my own 2 feet. So I can't wait till we're able to connect, you know, in a physical space and, you know, be able to share that time with each other again.
It's going to happen. So no, I love it. Well, this is amazing. And I'm really glad you were able to take a few moments just to kind of share your story and a bit of who you are with our audience. And like I said, very much looking forward to reconnecting and seeing you again.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And thanks for giving me a call and an opportunity to speak with you guys. It's always great. If you would like to purchase a copy of my book, you can go to micahthepoet.com. If you want to follow me on social media, just go ahead and look up on any social media account, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. It should be just Micah the Poet, and then you will find me. Feel free to send me a little note if you want to, or if you're looking to collab, please send me a message as well. And I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time, man.
All right. Take care now.
Bye-bye.